All right. So this year, points of emphasis are a little bit different. We get new ones for each one of the years. So let's get into them. All right. A lot of the rule changes are to focus on risk minimization. We've got some changes in both swimming and diving relative to that. Rather than go through it multiple times, I'm going to go through the details of it once in the future. So, but it is a pretty cool thing, and obviously we always should be looking out for safety of our competitors, and our officials. Okay, another point of emphasis is trying to align with sort of the rest of the planet. So the World Aquatics, USA Swimming, national trends, and so a lot of the changes are specifically trying to help out with that. So as Chris mentioned, I think we have 8 times the number of changes this year as last year. So quite a few. So good news. I'll go through them all in detail in the future, but we're aligning with technical rules, changes in technology. So yes, your electronic watches are still not allowed, and behaviors. So speaking of behaviors, nationwide, I guess the behaviors are trending downward, and so this is an area of emphasis for us this year. I mean, honestly, I don't see them trending down so much in our state, and I thank you all coaches for that, because it's been a good ride. So we appreciate it, but we do have some rules that are specifically addressing both unsporting and unacceptable conduct, and depending how bad the behavior is, you'll get the unsporting conduct, which has got the biggest penalty, and unacceptable for throwing your goggles and saying a bad word. Another point of emphasis. Gotta keep watching to see if there we go. Photographers. So we want to make sure that we have our photographers in good spots to see what they need to see, but also not see what they're not supposed to be seeing, as well as getting in the way of officials. So we really should have that clearly defined. So I'm really talking, I guess, primarily to the meet director in all of us, to make sure that before the event we have that figured out, figure out what areas would be good behind the blocks, or in the starters area, probably the worst place they can be, and probably shouldn't be doing that. Think about the officials' movement. And so if you're the meet director, you can always reach out to the referee, because we can't have cameras where officials are trying to get around corners to get to the turn in and what have you. So point of emphasis, so I bring it up. All right, since we have a bunch, if you look in page 3 in your new rules book, and coaches, do you have your books yet?
Chassa said they went in the mail Monday for officials, so you might want to check with Chassa.
Okay, I've heard some officials have theirs, not everybody so far probably, but should be about now that the officials will have them, but I'm not sure the process for coaches to get them. But anyway, you'll be ready when you get them after what we are going to talk about coming up. So on page 3 is sort of a list of the changes you can kind of whip down and read in your book. First change I want to highlight is uniforms. So they have a new note at the beginning of the section on uniforms, which basically says that Chassa is authorized to authorize reasonable accommodations in writing for certain things. Could be an individual with disability or other circumstances that might be important to the competitor and they want to change. And so in most cases they will be granting reasonable requests. They will not grant the request if it's for something that, say, the suit has to be woven textile material, permeable to air and water 100%, and it's not something that will aid in speed, buoyancy, or provide body compression. So that little wetsuit up there is the epiphany of what we're not going to get approved by CHASA. And officials wouldn't want that either. There we go. Nice. Uniforms. So Rule 332 has changed, first time in years and years. And so this little table on the left-hand side is the summary of that. The main issue is they removed the term decent appearance. So that's a good thing because it takes away the subjectivity of saying, well, I don't think that's decent, so I'm going to make a call. Hopefully we wouldn't be doing that, but it's definitely not been our practice to do that. However, there no longer any terminology in the rule that says it needs to be of decent appearance. The rule has not changed in terms of what needs to be covered, and so that's really what we're going to do is if there's a suit violation, we'll come to you coaches and say, this is the part of the rule that it didn't meet, didn't cover something, or is covering something that can't be covered. So, and those criteria haven't been changed. The other thing that hasn't been changed is Rule 337, and that's our special request to you to make sure the competitors are in legal attire before we go. So, questions on that? Nice.
Bill, is this when we should talk about any concerns we have about this?
Yeah.
Okay. Given what I've seen in past years, particularly on the girls' side, where really the suits are more thongs than they are swimming suits, I just wanted to put it out here while we've got the coaches, the officials, the ADs together, to say if there's anything that can be done in the beginning to make sure that the suits are not sliding up on the girls, and that I think having a suit that's one size bigger than they normally have worn over the last decade is not going to slow them down so much so that they won't qualify for state. And that so you can start with that kind of input from the coaches and the athletic directors. And then for divers, there's no reason for a diver to have a tiny suit that they can't pull down over their butt before they start the dive. And I think with what I've seen, like I said, especially the last couple of years, the disqualifications had everybody not been so worried about what the girl's going to think, would have been horrific. We might as well just disqualify the entire team. As I stand and watch the team across the pool, all I see, is butts. So I'd really just like to implore, for the sake of the girls, that the coach, a parent, an AD get involved in the purchase of the suits and make sure that they know that the girls are all dimensions. And even some that aren't trying, depending on how buxom they are or how robust they are, they're going to need to have bigger suits. And they may have to have a different suit than the rest of the team because some of those styles, I don't know the names of all of them, the styles don't cover every girl in the same way. So I think the only way we're going to be able to enforce this rule to where everybody's not screaming, crying, and yelling is that we can start right at the beginning and get the right size suit on every girl. Thank you. That's my soapbox.
So my only comment is obviously, like all these rules, prevention is a good thing. So if they're ordering the suits that are appropriate size for them, that's wonderful. I would say that if a competitor comes up to the blocks and and it's covering everything that it needs to cover, but during the course of a heated race, it starts riding up or whatever they do a little bit. We're not going to be calling that type of thing, but if they show up in a thong, that might be cause for concern, and might certainly cause a disqualification. All right. Boom. Ooh, one in a row. Nice. Okay. So we now have a requirement for dual confirmation relative to dual confirmation on false starts. So at championship, that applies only at championship meets. It doesn't apply at dual meets. So unless the meet announcement says we're going to use championship rules at a dual meet. So ultimately, what we're going to do is if competitor or we're going to have dual confirmation at all championship meets as we've always done. But in the case of initial starts, we'll do that in writing, and we'll compare the written documentation of that. So it may slow down things a little bit, but that's the way it is. Okay.
Bill, is that just the officials marking on your heat sheet?
Mark it on your heat sheets. You and I are doing starts. We'll connect, and you got a 4 and I got a 5. We're not calling it. If we both said 5, then great. We'll call it. So just, I guess it's just a little extra layer of confirmation to make sure before we make the call.
Will the coaches receive that in writing as well?
We're not going to distribute any of that. I mean, obviously, if you have a protest and you want to look at a heat sheet, that's certainly or you can come up and say, can you show me which lane it said? And I'd be happy to show you. So, but we're not going to file these things. We're not writing DQ slips or something like that. We've been using this protocol for dual confirmation on relay exchanges for quite a while. So just really an extension of that. Thank you, Ron. All right, backstroke. Submerging for the finish is now approved. Some stipulations around that. So some part of their head, so you can see on this little competitor, you've got a flag. Some part of his head is just past the flags. At this point, he or she can submerge. Okay. They can submerge and kick all the way to the wall if they want. We don't care. That's the way it is. Any questions on that? Cool. We're going to be using backstroke flags, officials. That's a convenient reference on what's the 5 yard or 5 meter mark at a meter pool. Question? No, okay. All right. Thank you, Ron. Breaststroke, arms and legs. So rule change there. If we look at the rule excerpts on the left-hand side of the slide, they're a little bit shorter, a little more succinct. And so it's hard to see what changed. What changed is they allowed the they've taken away the horizontal plane for both the arm strokes as well as the kick. And so that's no longer an expectation or requirement. And so that's going to make that easy. They also took out the description on what is a downward dolphin kick, because we don't need it. We all know what it is. Says it's developed from flexing and extending of the knees. What it used to say, it just says downward dolphin kick now. Another thing about this rule, and this was always a difficult thing to judge, is when they're doing their breaststroke pull out. If they start their pull out and they're not exactly to their full breast position and pull two, in the past we would have called that. That is not our expectation anymore. So that's not one we'll call. Thanks, Ron.
Is there any specificity on that last rule? Like, is it worded perfectly level, or does it say something like past 45 degrees towards level, or anything like that?
Your position on your breast is all it talks about. There's no.
On the back. Pretty much.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey, Bill, another question related to that. When I read it, I interpreted it as the arms and the legs don't need to be on the same plane, because the arms and the legs are not on the same plane when you're swimming breaststroke. And so I interpreted it as they're just not connecting the two. So arms need to be on the same stroke plane, and legs need to be on the leg.
No. I can do my breaststroke like this if I want. See if I can do that. Yeah, this way.
As long as your path is vertical toward the breast.
Yep. Too easy. Okay. Breaststroke turns. Breaststroke turns. Where are we? Okay, we're over here. There's just some cleanup on this. Just to confirm, there's a confirmation that a partial cycle at the end of a length going into the turn is okay, so I can do the pull and not finish with the kick. If a cycle is a pull and a kick. So if I only do a pull, that's fine, which has always been our understanding and interpretation. Some part of the head must break the surface on that last arm stroke. And the big change may be the swimmer's hands must be separated for the two-hand touch. That's not been our requirement. It's been USA and other rule codes for some time. So stacked hands are not good. So I'm going to put this down and show you a couple things. I'll try to yell.
On that last point.
Okay.
Where did you say that came from? Because I close this. I'm finished.
Okay.
I can't do that.
That'll be illegal now. So this is simultaneous and separated. So is this. That's not. So no, yes.
Those were yeses?
Yeah, same time.
Yes, I can touch on different parts. But yeah, we're just looking to see separation.
Still on the finish, do they still have to be separated on the finish, or do you like?
Same goes on the finish, which is where we're going now. Same applies. Okay? Really everything still applies.
Is the brush touch still
Yep.
good as long as it's separated?
Yep, as long as it's separated, brush turns are just good.
So Bill, just to, what you showed was very, okay, so obviously they don't do this anymore,
Right.
but the thumbs are,
It's not separated.
that's not separated.
No?
Nope. Sorry.
Not that I'm gonna be able to see that.
That's legal in other states.
Yeah, I went to the Federation to make sure on this one, because I thought that might be a bone of contention. It's part of your hand, and so that they're looking for separation.
Hey, Bill, on the turn, not a finish, on the turn, do they have stacked hands?
No, no stacked hands for their turns nor their finish.
Bill? Can you explain a little more about what that last stroke looks like before the finish without a leg kick?
So if I'm breaststroking in, I'll do it one-handed so I can keep yelling at you. So I'll do a pull, and then I'll do a kick, pull, kick. When I'm coming in for the finish, if all I have time is to pull and I don't have time for the kick, that's perfectly fine. It's an incomplete cycle. We don't care.
So the cycle is the leg. The cycle is the
Arm leg.
Pull and kick.
and the legs. It's not talking about, you know, sometimes in breaststroke or butterfly you'll see this little half pull at the end.
So we'll get on it on butterfly coming up, but yeah, the little pull at the end on butterfly underwater is an underwater recovery, and it's still not legal. Okay, that doesn't change. On breaststroke, that would be legal, unless they do two of them without an intervening kick. Clear as mud? All right. Oh. Butterfly, butterfly. Ron, can you go back one? Oh, you did. You're awesome. Okay, so butterfly. Similar stuff going on. So we're aligning with national trends. So we still need to pull simultaneously, recover simultaneous, both arms, but it doesn't have to be in the same horizontal plane. So that's why that butterfly up here is crooked. So that applies to the pull or recovery. So as we're judging this, we're looking when they come out. Did they come out at the same time? Did they go in the same time? Then we're pretty sure it's simultaneous. Okay, thank you. Again, stacked hands are not good hands. So just like on breaststroke, we want to see that there is separation between the hands on the touch. And it does not have to be in the same horizontal plane, so I can, legal. That applies turns and finish. Diving. We lost 3 dives. I've never seen them. But it's because coaches don't think they're good to do either, so I suppose so. So the 104A, 304A, 402A are bye-bye. There was another addition to 974C that says the dive is going to be unsatisfactory if, in the referee's opinion, the diver's head is unsafely close to the board. So if it hits the board, it's no more than 2, or if it's unsafely close, it's no more than 2. So that's the rule, and that's a change. Okay? So if you look into the situations, they're talking about they kind of put a number on what's unsafely close to give us a guideline, I suppose, and about 6 inches. So pretty close, 6 inches. Some of us will close our eyes if it's that close. But that's what we're talking about, giving us sort of a guideline for how close is not safe and is unsafe. Make sense? And this is a referee call. So he'll instruct the panel and they'll make their judgments.
A non-referee can still score as unsatisfactory if the referee does not call it as unsatisfactory?
You know, the judges panel all has the opportunity of going from 0 to 10 on every dive. So all right. So every year they publish a little HS rules interpretation. So I usually try to go through those with you. I think they're helpful to make sure we get these rules interpreted as close to the same as we can. So, okay, Ron, we have some boxes that will come up. If you just want to hit the forward 2 more times, we'll just bring them up so they'll all be there. So the first one, coach requests the female to be allowed to wear a wetsuit due to a modesty issue, and the referee's not going to allow that. And we already talked about this one, because the suit must be of woven and textile material, must be permeable to air and water, and cannot aid them in speed, buoyancy, or body compression, and a wetsuit probably does all of those things. So it's the biggest no-no you can ask for, and it won't be allowed. Okay. Number 2, we're now at a dual meet. False start is observed by the officials that have jurisdiction to watch over the starts, and one of them doesn't write it in their program, maybe the other one does. It doesn't matter. As long as they agree at a dual meet, the call can be made. Because dual confirmation in writing is only required for championship meets. Okay? So unless you're putting it in a meet announcement, we're going to assume that we are not necessary to do that, to put it in writing. So, it's up to the referee if they want to require that at their meet. They certainly could do so if they wanted. But it's not required. Good? Same thing. 2 more. All right, situation 3. Backstroke swimmer is approaching the finish. Swimmer is not submerged when the head is passing under the flags. And then they do submerge and dolphin kick to the wall, and the referee would allow that. Okay? Because it is possible for them to do that within the rules, and any kick they want to choose is fine with us. Okay? Easy peasy. Number 4, on 200 IM, swimmer, really the same thing I just talked about. On the 200 IM, they're not submerged as they pass the flags, and then they submerge, dolphin kick to the wall. Okay? That is okay because this rule applies to IM as well.
But they still have to, the back to breast transition, they still have to hit the hand, they can't do a flip turn.
Still required a backstroke finish. Could be fully submerged when they're doing it. All right, situation 5. 100 butterfly or breaststroke, the official observed the swimmer's arms are not in the same horizontal plane on the initial pull after the start. Referee should allow that. As we talked about, this is fine on butterfly too. We shouldn't care. Okay? Must be simultaneous, but not in the same plane. Okay, diving. Coach requests that they be allowed to sit at the end of the line and lined up with the boards because that's where they like to coach from or whatever. And the answer is no, probably not. Not during competition because we really need to have our dive referee in that position to accurately judge this unsafely close. And that's really been our protocol in the past, but it's now written in the book to do that way. Good with these? Would you all like me to get maybe Monica to post these on the Chassa Now or something, the Federation's interpretation sheet? Okay? I thought that might be helpful if you want to read the whole thing, and it's really good stuff. Who's laughing? Okay. All right, we got some bonus topics because these are the things that always come up and are always important. So let's look at them. Okay, uniforms. So we talked about this pretty extensively already. So, uniform, suits or caps, none of this has changed about what can be in terms of decorations on the cap or the suit. So it's still one logo, it's still one American flag of a 2x3 max. Chassa can approve special patches if they'd like. It's okay to have a state or league qualifier on your cap. That was approved by Chassa years ago. So that's where we are. I think last season we had a little trouble with a couple of teams on nicknames on caps. Nicknames and competitors' names are not really the same. Yeah.
Specific to suits, if there's a modesty issue or a religious issue that the individual wants to apply to the state for, do they have to provide a letter of acceptance to the meet referee? Yes.
Yeah, Chassa will give a letter of acceptance for exceptions. And they're pretty good about getting that done quickly. And they'll always reach out to me if there's a question about, is this something that would be okay?
Bill, you said something about nicknames. Can you say that again?
Nicknames on the caps are not competitors' names, so we're not checking birth certificates. So if my cap said Bill and not William, we're not worried about that. But if my cap said Snoop Dogg or Superman, probably not.
Bill, can you clarify the manufacturer's logo size? It says 2 1/4 square inches. Does that mean 2 1/4 inches square or square inches? They're way different.
It's really both. So it's 2 1/4 in either direction, and it's 2 1/4 for the area. So square inches.
So 2 1/4 square inches is 1.5 inches by 1.5 inches.
Right.
Okay.
Or 2 1/4 by 1.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah. Great question. They're all great questions. All right, tape. Love this one. So the basic requirements in the Federation book have not changed. So they're all listed here. I have a special note in there for you because that in the bulletin we have a CHASA exception that's going into the bulletin, which is going to be cool, which is cool. And so the note basically says, and you're going to want to read the girls' bulletin when it's posted for sure, because it's got charts and everything on this. You'll find this with the taping section. But CHASA may provide a written authorization for tape for a medical disability such as diabetes. And we're seeing more and more and more and more of those. And those things need to be taped on. Okay? And so now, CHASA will give you a letter. So in the past it had to be medical health care provider only. Now it can be either medical health care provider or CHASA providing you written authorization for taping on a device for diabetes. Wish I had that before. Okay, so.
It says no letter, but the referee may authorize tape.
Yeah, I didn't get.
For current meet.
Time out.
Now we're becoming.
I didn't get there yet.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I didn't get there yet. Sorry. I'm just having too much fun. It's on me. Okay. So so ideally, go to CHASA, get a letter from them, and show it to the referee. We're all good. There is also something in the bulletin which says, hey, referee, if you're comfortable, meaning, gee, I've seen letters from 3 kids for the same device, and the 4th one doesn't have a letter. It does allow the referee the ability to say, oh, you're okay for this meet, go get the letter. That's what the cliff notes of what's in the book. Now, we're not asking our referees to be medical physicians, and if you're not comfortable, you've not seen one like this, and you don't want to allow it, don't allow it. And then they'll go to CHASA afterwards and go through the authorization process. But that competitor will not swim unless the referee was comfortable in that situation.
So how do we know that this is the first time we're asking them to go to chess? Maybe they've done this 3 weeks in a row and never gotten a letter. We don't know that.
Not asking you to know that. That's just I'm just reading you what the so yeah, it's a perilous thing. So one could probably go through a whole season as long as they ran up with referees that thought, oh, I'm comfortable with this. It could happen. Robert, what do you think?
Can you allow them to swim under protest?
I don't even know what that means.
That means that because there's no written rule and the referee doesn't feel confident or comfortable with making the decision based on what they don't know, you allow the swimmer to swim under protest, and once it's been decided at possibly the state level, those times either do or do not count. And that's allowable in other organizations. And what it doesn't do, it doesn't take the kid out of the water.
Got you. I don't think it's a bad idea, but I don't think that's what's put in the bulletin at this point. I'll take it to them, and if we want to add that to the stipulations, that'll be maybe a possibility.
CHASA has recommended that if there's an athletic trainer on site, that you include them in the decision if you have to. So if you're more comfortable with that. Being preventive and making officials happy, coaches, I think if you can get those letters early on and present them, it just removes any doubt and any angst for anybody. So we would appreciate it.
Yep, 100%. Let's just get the letters, and so we don't have to get into all the weird things that might come out of no letter.
And those letters can be electronic?
Yes. No problem. Show it on your phone. Good? All right. So the guidelines for officiating swimmers with disabilities has not changed at all. So again, we're looking for a letter from CHASA to tell us what the accommodation is. So written authorization is required. Referee is not going to be making judgment calls. Well, you don't have a letter, so I'm going to allow you to. We're not doing that. Okay. Next slide gives a couple of guidelines for officiating, some of the accommodations that you might seek. Just reach out to CHASA. They're really good at working with us on this stuff. And get your authorization letters, and we're good. Okay, just a couple of reminders. Because these things come up pretty often. If you want to, on exhibition, if you want to make one of your swimmers exhibition, that's fine. Swimming or diving, we don't care. That's fine. Exhibition does count as an entry, so it's still 4 max entries allowed. They don't count as a team entry in JV heats. They do count as a team entry in varsity in the state of Colorado, which is a little bit different than what's in the rule book. So if they're exhibition, they can be disqualified if they're not legal. They can qualify for state though, and they're not going to score points. So that's not changed. All right, seating and scoring. All meets are to be scored. So you'll see if you're going to have a JV and a varsity, we need to have scores for each of those separate. And we'll sign off on that. B League doesn't have to be scored. JV League doesn't have to be scored. That's the only exceptions that I'm aware of. Invite seating is still not allowed at a varsity dual meet. It is allowed in JV. Okay.
Bill?
Yes.
So in that case, the team in the designated lanes, with the individual seating not on invitation?
Yeah. Yeah, we're seating by odds and evens, as opposed to by time or some. By time, really.
No, that's, the word is dual, right? Only a dual.
Dual meets. 3 or more, invite. 3 or more can be done just like an invite, where we're seating by time, and it's great.
Bill, could we ask CHASA to make that really clear in the bulletin, right? Like if it's a 2-heat, dual meet varsity format, they have to be in their lanes, but if they opt to go a 3-heat dual meet or a 4-heat dual meet with some of the really huge girls teams, that they can use invitational seating, because I think there's a lot of confusion around that.
Yeah, I'll make a note to look at that, and I'm not sure if it's been posted yet.
Yeah, I don't think it has.
Yeah, if they can just like make that really clear on what's allowed based on the number of heats in a dual meet, that would be really helpful.
And is that still subject to all coaches agreeing? So if one coach says, no, I want odd even if it's a 4-heat dual meet, that's what has to happen, or?
I think this is a call by the host.
But,
Well,
Yo,
Let's say it is a dual meet, and whoever seeded said meet did not ensure that the teams were in the correct lane, and you get to that race and say they aren't in their correct uneven lane, is there a penalty? Do they just make the swim? Can we address it a little later? What happens if that does not happen?
it's really going to be up to the ref to decide how they want to handle that. But ultimately, and I've had situations, specific situations, where there was going to be 3 teams. Actually, there was going to be 4 teams, and 2 of them dropped out. And so now they had this thing heated by time, and you just had to do them by time. You could require the host team to redo the meet and come up with all new meet programs and all new timer sheets and everything, but I'd be reluctant to do that.
So I have a question for clarification. So
Okay.
sometimes when I'm doing a meet and there's one large team and a small team, we'll do a heat of say the 53 of all the large team. That's not legal. They have to do another heat. Let's say we're in a 6-lane pool and they have 6 swimmers that swim the 50, so they got to do that now in 2 heats?
Yep. Yeah, because you can't,
Okay.
in a dual meet, if I've got odds and you've got evens and you're the big team, you can't put any people in my lanes even though I don't have somebody to swim in it.
So they have to add another heat if they want to do that?
Yeah.
Okay.
If they split it up as a JV varsity, like some will, can they run it that way? Because that's kind of what that says. If it's a JV and varsity, they're doing the both of them together. Does that mean that they could have the JV, if they're JV swimmers, they're doing the JV heat, and then we've got the varsity heat after that they are split out? Does that change that situation?
I think it's a whole new situation. So in the case that you're describing, we're going to do for the varsity is going to have to be the odds and evens, and and for the JV, we don't care if they want to put 6 people in because they're all the fastest times. We don't care. It could be done by time. All right. Last thing is on NFHS Learn. I just think it's the coolest thing, so I always just leave it in there. It's not something that goes wrong, but it's definitely free and good training, and it's available for both coaches and ADs and officials. So I just picked out a couple of the courses in there. They're always adding them, but I think they've done a nice job trying to offer up ways to get trained. And I know we have some prospect officials. I absolutely recommend going and checking those out. You can wait until after you pass your test because we don't want to confuse you with anything other than, but definitely there's some good stuff out there, and I think we all learn how we learn, but I think this is a good way to learn. You have questions for me about anything else at this point? All right. See, thank you for not having another question.